What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video, and today we have some more news. Like I posted in the Edison World League server about a week or so ago, this will be the Beast Mode Circus Series first event back. It's been quite a while, and I miss everybody dearly. We are kicking it off with a Edison World Championship qualifier. We have 4 invites going up for prizing. That's based on 100 players. Anything less than 100 players, we'll be giving out invites based on increments of 25. So we get 75 players, you get 3 invites. We're kind of rocking it old school. It's going to be 7, 8, 9 rounds of Swiss, depending on the amount of players. Cut to top 8. Top 4 get invites, just like the old school regionals. If you guys played back in 2004, 2005, maybe even 2006, that's how it was. It was brutal back in the day. As the events got larger, they started increasing top cut, top 16, and nowadays, well, before the new Konami policy, it was ridiculous. You'd have regionals that were top 128 and top 64. Needless to say, that's a topic for another video. But this event's going to be cut to top 8, top 4 get invites. In terms of additional prizing, whatever you guys want to do for donations, just DM me if you want to donate. And I am trying to get something set up for super chats for this event. It will be streamed, and 50% of all super chats are going right into the prize pool. All of donations directly made to the tournament will go 100% will go right to the prize pool. Otherwise, it'll be Edison World Championship qualifying invites. And then, of course, for stream comms, I have quite a few people already reached out. I'm gonna, have a rotation of people on comms. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to me all day, which is great because I don't want to talk all day. But I will be heavily involved. We'll have a lot of people rotating in and out. So if there's some people you want to hear from, or hear their insight in the game, reach out, DM me. I'll try to get as many different people on as I can. I ask that everybody's respectful when they're on stream, but it should be super fun. Going to get a bunch of different player perspective, and again, should be a good event. It's going to be one day. We're running the event starting early, 11 a.m., and going to try to finish the event. Well, we are going to finish the event one day. I cannot commit the whole weekend. I have dad duty. So I hope everybody can come out. I suspect that we are going to have over 100 players. I do know it's the same weekend as, or same day as GOAT World Championship, which I apologize. This is the only weekend that worked for me. And the month of October, I know there's some RBTs going on. There's Deck Devastators. So, October now had not many tournaments, and it seems that there are a bunch of tournaments now. So come out, come play. If you're not in the Discord server, join it. It's in the description below. And now we're going to get on to the good stuff. Let me swap over. Boom. So I know many of you have already seen videos. It's been going around that they've had this new Nitro Vayu, I guess everybody's calling it, and compare it to the Vayu Turbo. Everyone believes that it's better. I did post a video of this deck specifically. It's been months back now. This was Graveyard Black Feather, essentially, was what they had called it in the OCG. It's been around for many, many years. And honestly, I did not create the deck at all. Literally went on to the old OCG website and copied a list that looked pretty similar. I added a few cards because none of the lists were the exact same, and I actually played this list at my Edison monthly. No real preparation, just kind of played, and I don't really play much value as it is. But I did find some flaws, and I talked about it in my other video. You can go check that out. It's been a few months back, probably 4 or 5 months ago now. But it definitely had some flaws. Of course, this deck is not nearly as refined as the list that just topped the RBET in Chicago. Without a doubt, those lists are infinitely better, but the concept's still the same. Cut Raikos, cut hamsters, tried to make the deck faster. And I did talk about this a little bit in my tier list at the beginning of the year because I felt that it was possible Vayu Turbo would fall off. I was an idiot. I don't know, 2 weeks later, Vayu Turbo won. But I think my thinking process was correct in the sense that the deck does feel slow at times because you're setting hamsters, you're setting Raikos, and that can be easily exploited nowadays, and lists are just getting faster and faster. So that's what kind of gave me the idea to start looking for some of the other lists. And in the OCG, they didn't have hamster and Raiko. I don't even know if they ever got it, but they didn't have them. All their Vayu graveyard decks were similar to this to some extent. They had a bunch of Greffer, they had a bunch of Armageddon, and you just throw everything in the graveyard really quick. And they played Icarus Attack. So there's a lot of the same concepts in this deck that are actually in the new Nitro Vayu deck. And the thought is the same. Cut out on hamsters, cut out on Raiko, cut the Caius, and just go, speed, like Lightning McQueen. We're all about speed here. So But anyway, this list is not very good. Don't play this list. Play the new Nitro Vayu. I just mainly wanted to showcase that I have played the deck a bit, or the concept of the deck, and I found it interesting. And I can see how some of these other players have kind of concluded the same thing I have, because I'm no genius, much smarter people who play this card game. Obviously, people have been looking to innovate and stay ahead of the curve, and even Vayu Turbo for a long time has been considered, this is it. This is the 40 cards, 41 cards. There's no changes, and it's pretty clear 3-4 years into Edison now. Vayu's changing, and that deck has been dominant for so long. So let's look at some of the new list here. This is the Nitro Vayu, and you can see here, obviously this is really built on speed. They cut a lot of the, I had Spirit Reaper in my list, DD Crows and whatnot. Icarus is still in the deck, but they went with the Upstart package. They went with more draw traps, and this is like all gas, no brakes, and which is good. It's very explosive. The problem is, I would say, and this video is really going to get into, is it better or is it worse than the old Vayu list? And I guess the short answer is I don't think we know yet, but my guess, and I'm speculating here, is that I don't think this list is as good now as it was going into that event. Obviously, that makes sense because people know what the list is now, and I think that this was, when you played this list, people had absolutely no idea what was going on. And in mirror matches, especially, you just blew people out of the water because, they're setting Raikos and Hamsters, you're setting Icarus attack, and just blowing people out of the water. They have no idea what's coming at them. They don't know what to expect. Now that the list is out, when I play one of these lists online, I already know that they don't main deck Bottomless because most people are just net decking the list and not changing anything. And then Bottomless is one of those cards where I've gone back and forth on anyway, and I've said it in other videos where I'm not even convinced that 2 is the correct number. In the main deck, I think that it may be 1 and then you side the other. They chose to side both, which is because this list doesn't lose completely to Blackwing. That makes sense. When I play zombies, the deck just gets blown out, so you kind of have to have an answer. But Bottomless is not a great card after early game, and it's one of those things that the second they slam a synchro and make a play, you draw the Bottomless, and it's not any good. But knowing that they're not main decking that, you're allowed to do, especially if I'm playing zombies, I'm allowed to just do crazy Brio plays and just go all out. Of course, they have Icarus that supplements the Bottomless, and they can still respond in some ways with that, but this caught a lot of people off guard, and they were not expecting half the cards in this list, and I think that's why it did so well, besides the fact that the players that play the deck were amazing. Obviously, if you hand this to me, I wouldn't have topped, but they're a tier above many other players that play the game, so they're already great players, and then they have a great list going into it that has been obviously well tested. They cut brain control from the list, which is most people will say you're crazy doing that. They cut it from the list because, it makes sense. They don't have Caius. They only have a couple tuners, but still it's a power card. So they really refined the list, refined list. They had the element of surprise, and they have great players playing the list. I'm surprised it didn't win the event. It came very close to doing so. So, but then we compare it to the Sizzle 41, which up until literally Chicago was considered the standard for Vayu by many, including myself. This is what I played in YCS Rhode Island, and again, these lists are Vayu generally is not a very complicated deck to play. Pick up the cards and play. To master the deck and play and be able to master the mirror match is extremely difficult. And going into the mirror match when you're playing this list versus Nitrous or Nitro Vayu, you are at such a significant disadvantage because you just didn't have any idea what was going on. They were blowing you out when you're setting Raikos or Hamsters into Raiko, and they're just Icarusing you, and then they slam the board. It probably wasn't even close. And now, the difference between the two lists is obviously the speed and then the flip effects. I still think that this list is fine. I think this list will continue to win events. And the reason I say that is because milling has a higher ceiling and a much lower floor. So the ceiling is, there's nothing better than flipping a Raiko, milling Sirocco, Vayu, Necro Gardener. It's hard to lose that game. And being able to do that just wins you games. Now, you can also have the downside of flipping Raiko, milling Dark Arm, Burial, and Chaos Sorcerer, and you probably lose the game. So the ceiling of this deck is probably higher than the ceiling of this deck, would be my guess, just because of the fact that well, I guess you can argue ceiling is higher, but the floor may be lower. And that's true because random milling can just blow people out of the, like, you can just win the game. I've seen it so many times. Summon Card Trooper, mill 3, slam Dark Arm, banish Vayu, stack for Plague, and you just won the game in one turn. Where this is here, it's obviously targeted milling. You control what you're sending. But this deck is still very explosive because Vayu in general is just the way the deck plays. You have a bunch of Greffers. You're always going to be able to see a piece of, a card that you need to send something to the graveyard. So you're just going to do that more consistently with this deck. I would say that most players would choose to have a more consistent means of sending something to the graveyard than random milling, because random milling may work, and you might be, look at Lightsworn and Twilight. Like, if you're just milling and you're on that day, like, nobody can beat you. And then there's days where you just literally can't mill for the life of you and you can't win. So I think that there'll still be people that choose to play this list, mainly because, like, this is what it's been for so long. I think there's still merit to main decking Raikou because it often sets the way for you to be able to land attacks. Obviously, you can set Raikou, pick apart back row, which this deck really only has Icarus attack to do that. So this deck you play more into back row more frequently, and which can be challenging sometimes, even though it's quicker. This deck here often is just like, I'd say it's almost more control, right? Because you're playing flipping Raikou, targeting back row, then being more aggressive with the Vayu plays. So I think both lists have some merits here to be played. If I was playing in an event and had to pick a list, I would still probably pick the old school Sizzle 41. It has a significant more, success. It's had major wins, major tops, and that's just because it's been around longer, possibly. I think that this deck can play a bit more of a grind game. It can play a bit of a longer game. Obviously, it has the Caius, it has the Raikou, it has the Hamsters. Deck Devi is a blowout card as well. But this list is everywhere now, and I feel like it's probably not as good now that everybody knows what it is. I'm interested to see or hear what you guys think. Again, I don't necessarily think that you are going to just not do well because you play this list at an event, but keep in mind that it's all over the place now. And most people like myself, if I see that you flip a legacy and you are playing Vayu to some extent, I'm just going to play as if Bottomless doesn't exist. There's no deck Devi in the main. So, like, I'm happy to see this list as a zombie player because this list does not hurt me nearly as bad. There's no deck Devi in the main. There's no Bottomless in the main. No Royal Oppression in the main. So, like, game one, and zombie versus Vayu, crazy enough, is, like, kind of a 50-50 matchup. It really just comes down to, do they main deck Devi or do they not? Do they deck Devi you that game? Do they main deck Royal Oppression? Because if those cards are in the main deck and they hit you with them at the right time, you just lose. But knowing that those cards don't exist in this list, then, like, it's game one feels like, I feel like game one, zombies are just more favored because this list also is super aggressive. So they're attacking into your recruiters and stuff. Like, I feel like zombies just beats this deck. And then game 2 and 3, you probably lose because look at the sideboard. It literally says, like, don't play zombies ever. And that's pretty much what it says there. So interested to hear what you all say. Just a quick discussion video. I'm excited to see new decks come up. Edison is nowhere near solved. Next week we could have a whole new list, and I really want to show off the new tournament coming up this month. Actually, it's this month now. A few weeks. So please, if you can play, come join the event. There will be more announcements posted and how you join and all that. And should be a lot of fun. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.